I still remember it like it was yesterday. My friend and I listening to CD after CD through a pair of Parker Audio 95s and a tiny little tube amp he bought on a whim off the internet from a brand neither one of us had heard before, Decware. This was over 20 years ago, and since then my friend has stuck with his original Decware Zen amp, whereas I couldn't help myself. I had to go buy the Zen Select, the Zen Pre. I even bought some cables from the company. But about 10 years ago, I sold off all of my tube gear. This included my Decware collection, and I haven't really looked back since. Until now. So settle in, hit that like button, and subscribe, and let's find out what, if anything, has changed with Decware in 20 years. Decware is a US-based hi-fi manufacturing company that has been making tube products and loudspeakers since the 90s. And they've been selling these products direct to consumers via the internet since before it was even cool. And if you doubt their OG status, you just have to take a look at their current website and know that it's not that much different from their website back in the 90s. But Decware hasn't spent a lot of money on marketing over the years. Instead, they have just let their customers and their products do the talking for them. And while their website may be stuck in the past, their products have definitely visually matured over the years, looking less like kits and more like the bespoke pieces of hi-fi art they have always been. That's right, every single Decware product is made by hand in Illinois by a select group of craftsmen and women, including Mr. Decware himself, Steve Deckert. The SE84UFO2 Zen amp is the latest iteration of one of Steve's designs that goes back 10 years. It is a Class A single-ended triode amplifier that churns out 2.3 watts into 4 or 8 ohms, but if you bridge it into mono, you'll get a whopping 5 watts out of it. The amp utilizes a 5U4G rectifier tube, 2 SV83 or EL84 output tubes, and a single 6922, 6N1P, or 6DJ8 input tube. All of the tubes are independently self-biasing, which makes changing them out or tube rolling an absolute breeze. Now, depending on how you have the amp configured will ultimately dictate its final price, but you can add inputs for up to 2 sources, and this includes balanced inputs as an option. You can also dictate what type of volume control you want. Yes, the Zen amp is an all-manual integrated amplifier, if I forgot to mention that. And of course, throw in a pair of 5-way binding posts, a removable power cord, and a lifetime warranty to the original owner, and you have the Zen amp in a nutshell. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm actually going to share with you my final conclusions about the Zen amp first, and then we're going to sort of Pulp Fiction this review a bit to find out if it's the right amplifier for you. So here goes. The SE84UFO2 Zen amp is one of the finest amplifiers in all of hi-fi available on the market right now, regardless of price. Now, before you go rush off and buy one, there is a very specific reason why we don't all already own a Decware Zen amp. And that is because this amplifier is tailored to a very specific type of loudspeaker. And to find out what type of loudspeaker works best with this amplifier, we have to look at one key, spec, and that is sensitivity. Sensitivity is purely a decibel level listed as a numeric value followed by distance. For example, a lot of speakers on the market have a sensitivity of 86 dB at 1 watt in 1 meter. What this means is that that particular loudspeaker can generate 86 decibels of volume with 1 watt of power when measured approximately 3 feet away. Now, for every 3 dB increase in volume, we need to double our power. So to go from 86 decibels of volume to 89 decibels, we would need 2 watts. To go from 89 to 92 would take 4 watts. 95 would take 8, 98 would take 16, and 101 would take a whopping 32 watts. Now, if you want to step it up to THX levels, you need 120 watts or more for this particular loudspeaker example. And this is assuming, of course, that we sit 3 feet away from our speakers, which we don't. So as you add distance from your speakers, you also need to add more power. This is precisely why a 2 watt per channel amplifier, while technically capable of driving any loudspeaker, is not going to be a good fit for most loudspeakers. But take a speaker like the La Scala with a sensitivity of 105 dB or our brand new Forte 4s at 99, and now we're talking. Sticking with the Forte 4, at a distance of 3 feet or 1 meter, it can generate 99 decibels of volume with just 1 watt of power. Now this means that the Zen amp is capable of driving the Forte all the way up to about 102 or 103 decibels, which is very loud. How loud? About as loud as a jackhammer. For me, normal listening levels fall somewhere between 65 and 80 dB, which in my room with the Fortes requires less than 1 watt of power. Perfect for the Zen amp. And if you saw my Forte review already, you'd know that the Zen amp was my favorite amplifier with this particular loudspeaker. So how does it sound? In a word, pure. This amp is named Zen for a reason, because everything that I play through it sounds as if the amp is one with the music. A lot of hi-fi products, I feel, try and wow you with what it is they're doing. And in many ways, they're kind of like carnival barkers shouting at you like, "Hey kid, you like bass? Well, check this out." Well, the Decware Zen isn't like that. In fact, it's the antithesis of that. It's sort of anti-hi-fi. It's so quiet, so unassuming, and so transparent to the source that its lack of sound or coloration becomes its signature. Take my voice, for example. Right now, you're hearing my microphone, the preamp inside my camera, digital file compression, whatever the hell YouTube does with these files, and then of course the device you're choosing to watch this through. Now, I'm not saying that if we were in the same room, I wouldn't sound similar, but I would sound different. In a way, the Decware amp manages to make me, or in your case, the music, sound like fewer things are being placed between you and the recording. The first and obvious advantage of the Zen's design is its overwhelming sense of clarity. Take, for example, Moby's humming at the beginning of Ever Loving. Through the Zen, that goes from being a textural element to a harmonic one. Sticking with Moby for just a second on the track Rushing, there is a sound that you may mistake for record static throughout. When listening to this track through the Zen, you realize it's not record static at all. It's actually a very deliberate sound, a sort of microscopic explosion that pops and fizzes with the beat. The Zen peels back the layers of the music in a way few amplifiers can, and the fact that it does this for so little cost is what amazes me the most. But there's more. With the right speaker, the Zen exhibits terrific bass response. It is more than capable of controlling the 12-inch woofer on our Forte 4 and control it with an iron grip. So despite its flea-like power with the right speakers, it actually outperforms amplifiers with 100 times its power in the bass department. Now, I have heard a lot of tube manufacturers claim solid-state light control over your speaker's woofers, but the Zen is one of the few that actually delivers. Oh, and that clarity I just spoke about a moment ago, it is all there and present in the bass as well. As for the mid-range, there's nothing to it. Timbre, inflection, nuance, weight, it's all there. There's no debate over warm versus cool or fast or slow. Through high-efficiency loudspeakers like the La Scala, the Forte 4, or Heresy 4, I don't think I've come closer to bridging that gap between real and reproduction the way that I have with the Zen. And it's the exact same story with the high frequencies. There is no glare or fatigue at the extremes or at the amp's limits. High frequencies are always composed, appropriate, but above all, they are effortless. Sure, if you have a poor recording, one with a lot of compression, especially in the high frequencies, the Zen amp is going to play that back, but it's not going to punish you with it. So this is an amp that is neutral and transparent to the source, but not wholly unforgiving. Soundstage definition is excellent. The delineation between instruments and artists is near absolute, and the focus is rock solid and doesn't move as you move about, provided your loudspeakers are set up correctly. Soundstage width and depth and detail throughout is also fantastic. Dynamically, the Zen amp is really 2 amps in one. There is a switch on the front of the amp itself that changes the bias, and what this means is that in one position, the amp's dynamics can seem just a little bit more relaxed, whereas in the other, they can be a little bit more forward and up front, but never aggressive. To be honest, I kind of forget that that switch is even there, unless of course I'm watching an action movie or am going for broke volume-wise. Now you need to know that if you flip the switch while listening to music, your speakers will produce an audible pop, but don't worry, that's normal and your speakers will be fine. With sensitive loudspeakers like those from Klipsch, the Zen has enough dynamic headroom to make drum solos or guitar riffs sound positively live. For me, there are no drawbacks to the Zen apart from the time that it takes to make one. Now, if you go and hook one of these up to a pair of Magnepan or ELACs, don't at me when it doesn't melt your face off because you weren't paying attention. For the right person who's on the market for an all-manual, old-school tube amp that also has high-efficiency loudspeakers, I have zero hesitation in recommending the Zen amp to you. And if you get one with the right speakers, I think you're going to find that all music, including classical, will sound otherworldly. As for comparisons, there aren't going to be many. The Zen sounds as good as the bandwidth audio amplifiers we reviewed over a year ago, but the Zen costs 1/6 as much. Now, the bandwidth audio amps are a little prettier. They have a little bit more power, which is going to make them more acceptable for a wider range of loudspeakers, but when connected to our Heresy Mark IVs, I prefer the Decware. This next one probably won't be much of a surprise, but the Decware wins again against the LTA Z10. While I love the Z10's construction, its remote operability, heck, I'm even a fan of its design, I just didn't love it with every genre of music, and that's a complaint I don't have with the Decware. In terms of clarity and detail, the Zen manages to go toe-to-toe with some very expensive competition, managing to sound more real and organic than even the Yamaha AS3200, our Musical Fidelity M5SI, our favorite name Unity Atom, even the $10,000 Technics R1000, again, when paired to the right speakers. Now, all of these other amps can drive virtually any loudspeaker on the market in ways that the Zen simply cannot. But step inside the high-efficiency octagon with the Zen and be prepared for a far fairer fight than you might be ready to admit. So in the end, the new Decware Zen amp is how I remember it. Flawless. It is my favorite amplifier of all time by a wide margin. Only now, for the first time in 10 years, I have managed to pair it with the appropriate loudspeaker. And wow. Just wow. I understand the Zen is not going to be for everyone or every loudspeaker, but for those of you that have come on this journey with us as we've gotten to know a lot of the Klipsch heritage speakers, the Zen amp may be the amplifier you have been waiting for, only this one isn't going to break your bank account. And to Steve Deckard, if you're watching this, you killed it. You absolutely killed it. So that is my review of the Decware SE84UFO2 Zen amp. What does Kristi think?
It's great.
It is.
It's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, most of the time when we had it hooked up to in our system, I pretty much forgot that it was there. And that might be the best compliment I can give it.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it's not my favorite in terms of the like design or like the looks department.
Yeah.
I'm not a tube person. Like I'm into meters.
Yeah.
I like the metal aluminum plates that you find in like Yamaha or Technics products. That's more my vibe.
Gotcha.
I don't like how you've got these little moles sticking up on top. It's just not for me.
The design isn't for you.
I really don't like them. But all that aside, it's a really magical little amp. I mean, it for something that has next to zero power.
Yeah.
I mean, it can do quite a bit. And like you said, it really goes toe to toe with some pretty heavy hitters that we have in house.
Yeah.
I mean, when you compare it to something like the Yamaha AS3200 at $7,500 and the new Technics amp
at $9,500 or something like that.
Nearly 10 grand. I mean, for these types of speakers that we're talking about,
high efficiency,
the high efficiency, it kills those amps.
It does. It does. Now, again, if you put the Technics or the Yamaha or even the name Unity Atom to ELACs or Paradigm or Magnepan or something, the Zen can't keep up. So we're not trying to say that it's like the silver bullet giant killer. Like, it literally cannot do what 95% of amplifiers on the market can do. Let's be clear about that. but for people that are into high efficiency loudspeakers like Klipsch, like Avant-Garde, like DeVore Fidelity, and a few others that are escaping me off the top of my head, this should be something you check out maybe first and foremost, because it could be the first thing you look at and the last thing that you buy. And it has that lifetime warranty, I mean, to the original owner, has a lifetime warranty. I mean, these are things that are heirloom type products. Like, they don't go bad. There's no circuit boards in this thing. It is all hand wired point to point. And honestly, very few companies this side of silly money do that sort of thing anymore. And so it really is a statement piece without costing statement money.
I think that the most important part of the conversation really has to be that if you're watching this review and you've made it this far, before you make any decision, and you really should do this with whatever product you're considering, you have to know, what do I like? What kind of speaker am I thinking about putting this with?
Or what do I currently own?
And what do I currently own? Same thing. And what do I want out of a product? Because it is the type of a product that is all manual. Are you okay with having to get up and manually turn it up and down, on and off by hand? If you're not the person that is into that, and I like to stream from my Spotify and I like to control everything with one remote while I also watch TV or switch to music, then, maybe this isn't for you. Or maybe if you get that, you might need something else to help
facilitate those types of
bring it into the modern world. And the only other thing I think that we maybe want to touch upon, especially for people that are newer to the hobby. Okay, so talk to me about the types of speakers. Maybe give me some actual examples of what you would not pair the Zen Amp to.
In terms of which speakers I wouldn't pair the Zen Amp to, I can talk from personal experience. Like, I wouldn't pair this amp with B&W. I wouldn't pair this amp with, say, Paradigm. I wouldn't pair it with even like our Yamos, despite those being relatively efficient. And the reason for that is that I think a lot of people, when they listen to music, while not all the time, they want to have that kind of bigger than life experience. In those speakers, JBL, another great example, like L82s that we have in house, those speakers, their crossovers, just their general design really suck up power. And so if you're keen on listening at 50 dB or 55 dB, then sure, you can get away with it. But if you want to have those kind of hi-fi peaks and that real true dynamic range, the Zen Amp's not going to do it. Now, one way that you can use less efficient speakers with this particular amplifier is if you're in a smaller room, or you're maybe looking for a desktop type setup where you're sitting closer. Then you can get away with a speaker that has a sensitivity of, say, 90 to 93 dB. I would not pair this amplifier with any speaker from any brand that has a sensitivity of, say, 89, 90 dB or lower. Okay, I would just consider those off limits with this particular amplifier. I don't even care if your room's small. Don't do it. If you have a small room and you're content with listening at lower volumes, 90 to 93, 94 dB, you will be fine. But if you want to come out in an open room like this and you want to have big amp experience with the Decware, we're talking 95 dB or higher. It's that simple.
Great. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that will really solidify who this speaker is and isn't for.
Yeah, I mean, because we've all been there. You'll watch a review. I've read reviews in like Stereophile or Absolute Sound where someone calls something the best, and you're like, yeah, I got to go get that. But this really is, I'm not joking, this is my favorite. This is the best amplifier that I am aware of, with an asterisk, in that it's only going to really work for this big of the market. Keep it within the wheelhouse of what we've discussed in terms of being the appropriate market for this amplifier, and you will be in possession of one of the finest amplifiers ever made. Well, that's it. That is our review of the Decware SE84UFO2 Zen amplifier. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And my question of the day for you is this: what other tube products do you want to see on this channel in 2021? Let's get a list going. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi has left for you down below, including the one to my amp from Decware, know that that is a great way that you can show your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we thank you all very much. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.